Part two of the big bogey, the rebirth phase. The first phase was the tireless, excited, enthusiastic phase where you just got a ridiculous amount of stuff done because all you would do is that constantly. The first phase started in the middle of January and ended in the middle of February. This is when most of the work got done, but then it started slowing down as the enthusiasm died when I realised there was quite a complicated piece. It was the engine, which we built in the last part. We're going to be riding the wave high and we're going to try and get this done nice and sharpish. So by the end of this video, hopefully this thing right here is going to be in the car. I don't know whether it'll be running, but hopefully it's going to be in the car. But before we're able to put this thing into the car, so I'm going to wheel it out of the, just be a bit less metaphorical, we need to put this thing in. Ho, ho, ho. This thing right here is the car's nervous system. It is the wiring loom. It's a wiring loom for a 1969 Mini Traveller. The actual original cable loom wasn't that bad, but there were signs of things that I was going to need to patch. So I thought, let's just bite the bullet. I'm already in deep. Let's get a whole cable loom, limit the amount of swear words being uttered for the build and the future running and reliability of the vehicle. Hello, this bit is after the fact and I apologise, the microphone's not plugged in, it's run out of batteries, blooming wireless things. Anyway, something that I danced around about using a new wiring loom, a proper wiring loom, is the colour coding scheme. I think it's paramount to follow the colour coding scheme, even if you're doing an engine swap. Largely the wiring's going to be the same. And British Leyland, for instance, used pretty much the same wiring colour scheme throughout the time. So if you've got a Mini, or if you've got a Metro, or if you've got this, that and the other, there's a very good chance that the wiring colours will match up. Personally, I've had a couple of cars before that were wired with, you know, the good old-fashioned Halfords, red, black and blue. And whenever there was a problem, it was always the blooming wiring, and finding the problem was hard because it wasn't the colour scheme that's on the wiring diagram. If you have a car and you have an electronic problem, it's way quicker for you to jump onto here, look at this, and within a couple of seconds you will have figured out the problem. Here's a list of some of the stuff, and it actually reigns true. Like after a while you start actually remembering it, which is pretty good. The wiring loom, granted, isn't very cheap. It's about 150 quid. But for the cost of that, like in this video, I got it plonked in the space of an hour. An hour and 150 pounds compared to trying to get all of the colours for the wires or just wiring it together and spending a day or two doing it. It's like, it weighs up. It really weighs up more. Comment if you disagree anyway, but that is the main reason I've gone for a wiring loom. Whoop. Now I've got the workshop manual here and there's a bunch of wiring diagrams in here. Funnily enough, none of the wiring diagrams match up to the description of this car, but it doesn't matter. They're all pretty much the same, and if they aren't, then I'm pretty sure you can fluff around a bit here and there. I think it's the closest to the Mini 850. That's another thing. I think this used to have a dynamo, so it might be slightly different anyway. Oh crud, it might be, oh no! So let's get the loom out and just see what happens. So there's a bunch of connections on this side, and then it looks like there'll be a long loom over to the rest of the bits and bobs. This side has the connectors for the steering column, and also a bunch of bulb connectors and stuff that go into the dashboard. So I think this is the point at which it moves, but I might be wrong because this stuff, let's find out where all of this stuff goes first. So this is the wiper motor over here. This is the thing, and that's the connector for it. So this is actually all the rear loom, I think. So luckily this is all going to connect up to those. So these connect up to that. I'm going to keep the rear loom existing because it seems to connect. We'll find out if that's a problem later on. So this all goes over here. I'm not going to connect it quite yet. So this part looks like it's connecting to the engine. This cable loom is for an older type of charging system for the car. In fact, it's very similar to the Chummy, the Austin 7 Chummy. You remember in the Austin 7 Chummy there's a relay that turns on and off. This also connects to the dynamo. This is what the Mini's dynamo is. It's basically a backwards motor spinning it, generating voltage. This, instead of putting this in, we've put an alternator into the circuit, which means that we can get rid of certain things like the control box. That was the thing that was over here. I don't know where it is right now. So in the schematic we've got a control box. We've got to figure out the modifications to make to be able to convert it from a dynamo to an alternator before even putting the wiring loom in. So that adds a little bit of confusion to the whole thing. The wiring diagrams, they're all a little bit different, but they all have the same colour scheme. So this is me connecting it up to the rear loom. That's a set of wires that go and connect to the back of the car. For instance, the fuel sender, the fuel pump, and all the rear lights. The wiring diagrams are like simple schematics, really. Instead of weird symbols, they're all actually like literal things, like a picture of a dial and stuff. It is very straightforward if you kind of take it in chunks. So focus
focus on each line by line like you're washing a big pile of dishes, and then you'll get it done.
One final thing we need to do before we put the engine together, and I've completely lost it. Here it is we're going to add new inner CV joints. What are they? Inner constant velocity joints. Well, we looked at the outer CV joints, the outer constant velocity joints, in the video about building the front and rear subframes. Well, this is the inner one. This is actually connected to the differential at the back of the gearbox. In fact, this metal bit right here actually sits in an oil seam, and this is where the engine oil, this side's got engine oil, this side's the outside world, so this has got to be smooth or it'll all just pee engine oil out the bottom of it as it's spinning around. This ultimately connects to a drive shaft that ends up connecting to the front wheel. Remember, the front wheel's on suspension, so this needs to be able to wiggle around like crazy or it will cause some damage. Well, that's when the constant velocity joint comes in. You'll see it's got a few shapes around there. Inside of it, we'll have this thing. It's got a bunch of ball bearings and it sits like there, and it basically acts like a movable joint that can spin around. So as it spins around and steering the wheels, it's able to go up and down, left and right, and it's got a load of free movement. That means you can still spin the wheels via the drive shaft and have suspension wiggling around like crazy. So what we need to do is actually put the boot on around it, because if it gets full of grit and grime and stuff, it'll end up sanding down and just becoming useless. So we've got to put the outer boot on first. So we're going to poke this, turn it inside out, poke it on the top, like so. Get one of these metal cable ties. I've seen normal cable ties being used as well. Squeeze it on, make sure it's all tighty-whitey. Give it a good squeeze in, which will compress it up. Get right on there. Something to that effect. So this will sit in here, but you've got a load of goo, dirtiest goop you'll ever see, covers you in it. Oh, get it all inside of there. Oh yes, lovely jubbly. Get all on the underside of this. Oh, very nice. Round the outside. Oh, it's all going to squish around, and then it runs around at 1,000 times a minute anyway, so get in there, give it a good old wiggle around, make a right old mess, push all the grease in there, flip the boot, get the boot over the top of it like that, so it all encloses all of that goop. Get a bigger one of these bad boys, metal cable tie again, Squidgy Tool 5000, give it a nice squeeze. Yeah. Now, to do the test in the last video, I put these other ones in. Actually, these look not that bad. I couldn't find the rest of it, so yeah, got to put these other ones in now they've turned up. I've got it on this box so it points forwards a bit, so we save as much oil as we can. Sweet. Speaking of hoist, there we go. Wiggly wiggly. Ho ho ho. Back up again, and hopefully down for the final time. Right, I'm going to remove this part. I don't know how much luck we're going to have, but I'm going to try and leave the exhaust manifold on, and then put in. I've never done it like this, but I've heard it can be done. I'm not feeling convinced, but we'll give it a go. Yeah, it's definitely filming. Yeah, filming this kind of stuff definitely adds a different element to the whole project, because you're not only doing this, you're making sure that it's all like lined up and in the right angles and stuff. This is sort of why I've got to do it on my nod, so I can make sure the camera's going all right. My dad came around this week when we were starting this. He wanted to help, so I did give him a job. I gave him my least favourite job that I wanted to do, and that was the windscreen. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, the filming and stuff, it all just turns a bit hodgepodge, and I only got a little bit of him doing it whilst I was doing the rear arches, which I forgot to press record. We can try and get it in with the manifold. I'm not sold on this idea. Oh, it's going, it's happening, it's actually going on. Oh no, what am I hitting? Oh no, it doesn't go under. It's too low! It's too low! There we go. trying to do it with the exhaust manifold in it is a bit of an experiment, because it would be great if we could just pull this in and out just to do any work. It would just speed up the whole process of any sort of work on this car by just taking the engine out whenever we need to do anything. So, oh shit, whoopsie daisy. Oh, that's good. Actually, it looks possible. Thank fudge this is a patinaed car. I can care a little bit less. Whoa. I'm going to lift it up a bit. Get the exhaust manifold in. Yeah. Oh, so close. It's in. Right. Now just let it scrape the whole darn way down without damaging any of the wires. Oh. Oh. There we go. Boom. And we're in, baby. You might think this sounds a bit daft, but that went in a little too easy, to the point that I think it might be easier to do nearly any job on a mini engine by taking out the engine. Well, there we go. On to the next thing.
The next thing is getting the fuel from the fuel tank over to the carburetor. So this is a fuel filter, the Filter King. So we wire that from the fuel line that's coming from the bottom of the car over to the carburetor. So it's all filtered fuel. And this is a filter for the carburetor's intake. And we're going to lift up the back and pop in a electric fuel pump. As I said in the wiring loom already, these cars had electric fuel pumps. So the second you flick on the ignition, this thing turns on and starts pumping the fuel from the fuel tank over to the front of the car. So this connects to the back subframe. Now we need to connect the front wheels up to the engine via the drive shafts. So we're going to lift it up and remove the wheels and all of the bolts that connect the hubs to the rest of the car. I only tacked this in, so it's all going to come apart by hand. This was so we could wheel it around before this happened. This is the outer CV joint we spoke about before. The first thing we need to do is connect the drive shaft between the inner CV joint, which is there and connected to the engine, to the outer one here. So this is the original drive shaft to the car. We're going to slightly tap it into the front CV boot and a CV joint, and then put the goo into the back and then shove a CV boot on the outside of it. It's the same as the inner one. We need to kind of make sure it's all enclosed, because if it isn't, then it will just grind itself to pieces with all the grit and gravel from the roadside and all that stuff. So we're going to use the metal cable ties yet again. These are pretty cool and easy to use when you've got the right tool. They're a bit of a pain if you haven't got the right one. The right tool is only like £3 or £4, so I'd definitely recommend it. It does speed up the whole process. Anyway, now we've got that, we're going to make sure the circlip is on there. The circlip stops the drive shaft falling out, and we're going to lightly tap it into the inner CV joint. Not too hard, but make sure it goes all the way on so the circlip stays. And then plop it back into the back of the hub like this. And as opposed to last time when we just bolted it all up, we need to make sure all of the torque specs are correct on here. So we're going to lightly tap it all together, use an impact to conform and pull everything in place. Now we're going to get a crowbar. Oh no, you're going to bend the lug nuts. You're not going to bend the lug nuts. If you're going to bend the lug nuts with a torque of 150 foot-pounds, those lug nuts probably need replacing. Anyway, we're going to tighten this up to about 150 foot-pounds with a torque wrench. And then when we get that lovely click and you notice that the hole doesn't match up to one of the gaps in the bolt, you need to tighten it up a bit more to the next point at which the hole is accessible, so we can put a split pin through. This split pin will basically stop the bolt from falling off. If the bolt falls off, then the wheel falls off. That's not very good. So now we're going to put everything back together. This is the steering rack. It was just spinning around. In this instance, the taper, you need to put a bit more friction on it, so just push it up from below with the jack, and then you can finally tighten it up and get it up to torque. This one is about 20 to 24 foot-pounds, and this one's about 35 to 40 foot-pounds, but I'd reference your own manual to confirm that. Anyway, after we've done that, we do the other side and put the wheels back on. Lovely jubbly.
So it's about 7 a.m. now. Finished at midnight last night. I think the last thing I did was a drive shaft, I think that was. Yeah, so, I mean, I've been on it a little bit hard. It's started to take its toll, but it's fine. Anyway, today, the first thing that we're going to do is deal with the gear linkage. Linkage, as you can see, when you pull back and forwards the gearbox and left and right, it rotates this rod around, which connects to the gear selector forks in the gearbox. I know we haven't really looked at the gearbox in this series quite yet, but we will get to it. Well, one of the annoying things about getting the engine in and out with these things is you need to tap out these pins. There we go. To be able to get this off. This is the coupler between the rod and the gearbox, and it's got these silly little pins in it. It's not the biggest pain in the ass, but it is a little bit of a slower down. Well, I've got this. This is another little thing to kind of aid that process, and it is a quick release. It's so quick it flies at you. So you get it. This might not be as quick. Imagine if it's not as quick. It's just a knack to it. It's on now. So that's on, so yeah, that's going to speed it up a little bit. The older gear tunnel is a little bit smaller, so you need a slightly different shaped bracket, and that fits, I think, there. So we'll get this changed over, get this cleared up, and then pop it in the car. This top rod right here, make sure that it's at exactly the right distance for the actual linkage adjuster at the bottom to work. So it's actually quite a simple thing now. I've put the extra linkage bit in. All it is it's just a bit bent. If I knew it was this simple, I would have probably just bent the other one, but whatever. So going to get into the engine, then we're going to get it lined up to the gearbox. So let's get it underneath and get it in there. Get it poked in. Pokey pokey. Got a bit of trouble getting the bolt in.
Now we're going to put on the exhaust. This is the central pipe. I've gone for a 2-silencer exhaust, a little bit quieter. You don't want to be a boy racer, but I think this car's going to sound funny anyway because we've got the drop gears and the supercharger. It's going to scream instead of go rum, rum, rum. Anyway, as you can see right there, I am employing the eyes in my hands through laziness of not having to get back out from underneath the car, and then use this to clamp in the exhaust. Sorry for not filming underneath. I went for the Manaflow exhaust, and this is the rear silencer. As you can see, first I plop it in upside down. It took me a second to realise. As you can see, this is a very slow mind in motion. I must have been quite sleepy at the point. This was after 5 or 6 days of a good 16 to 18 hours of obsessive building of this vehicle to get it done. But you know, after realising the problem, I turned it around. I've double checked everything after I've had a good sleep. Anyway, we're going to finish off the wiring loom by connecting all of the dashboard connections. There are connections to the switches and the center binnacle. It is really easy. This is the simplest Mini you could possibly work on. I'm not adding any extra parts, so the wiring is just, it's so simple. It's basically a lawnmower. It is perfection. All cars should be like this. This is the loom connections for the front lights. Both of them connect in parallel to the wiring loom. They connect by these three-way connectors that you could probably spare off a few more lights. Just make sure you're within the current rating. Amazingly enough, This only has 2 fuses, 2 glassed fuses for the whole car. Think about a modern car and how many blooming fuses are in that fuse box. And then you look at this. It's amazing, isn't it? And the thing is with these glass fuses, if it breaks and you haven't got another one, just plonk in a bolt. I know it's sketchy, but there are some instances that might be the only option and actually a viable idea. So just keep the fire extinguisher nearby. Anyway, now we've tested it, all works. We're going to be putting the throttle linkage all into it. So there's a slightly custom throttle linkage because of the way the Weber carburetor is connected. So you're actually connecting the throttle from the front of the carburetor instead of the back. So it looks a bit funky. And as you can see, that's wired in. There is a spring that came with the supercharger in the kit, but I didn't realise until after this video.
Working through the wiring loom, you'll notice that there's a bunch of bits here that aren't connected and the alternator isn't connected. Well, that's because this wiring loom, this car used to have a dynamo like the Austin 7 Chummy, and it had a relay. You'll recognise it. It looks very similar, but slightly more complicated because there's 2 of them to the one in the Austin 7. That control box, in essence, if the engine is making more electricity than the battery's got, then it will start charging and vice versa. But yeah, so what we need to do is connect this stud in between the brown wire, and I think it's the brown and blue wire, which basically just bypasses it for now. Looks very funny. That'll do. And we can see if it actually runs. Okay, right. Ignition key. Pop it in and we should hear the fuel pump. No noise. Oh, bloody hell. Ah, the bolt's fallen off. I'm going to get a better thing to make the electrical connection. Okay, so it's got some fuel in the fuel tank. We're going to hear the fuel pump first. That's a bit noisy. Okay, I'm gonna have to do something about that fuel pump. Oops. Oh no. I blow the fuse. Oh no. Oh no. I'm pissing out oil. Oh, I'm an idiot. I might be misunderstanding the way the coil is working right now. Just double check I'm getting voltage to the coil. Yep. Let's try it one more time. I got a string on the choke. Ah. Just putting a wire on the choke so I can pull it. I mean, I wasn't planning on using a choke, but one might need. It might be a necessity. What the hell? Oh no, that's too high. Need some work, but bloody hell, that's noisy. Just had it running, and evidently the manifold, the like heat stuff on the manifold hasn't dried, hasn't cured yet. So it's still got a bit of smoky Joe, but it's okay. It's going. Oh my god, what is the smoke coming from? What is that coming from? Must be some oil or something. Hello, I forgot to actually film the bit about the alternator modification, but it's really simple. So the wires that are connected via the bolt now in this loom, I just connected those together permanently. On this side I bought an alternator cable. It comes with the crimp terminals and stuff. You put it in. I got some colour coded wires. They were all just sat in a box anywhere, so there was only 3. But the thin one, that's the warning light, and that goes on this small connector side, and that connected to the brown and green wire. And then the other 2, those are the wire up to the positive voltage line, and that is the brown and yellow wire that connected to the dynamo, and then that just connects up there. It couldn't have been simpler. And then yeah, the ground of this just is grounded onto the engine below.
To finish off this video, we're going to do a few more jobs, like connecting up the center binnacle. We're not going with any trim behind it because it's lovely having the metal work visible. We're going to put on the indicators. I put in a new flashing unit, and yeah, these gaskets literally hold the glass in. There's no bolts. It's just using the rubber. So a little bit of grease, and then a nice little flat blade screwdriver, and you kind of just feed it all in. And yeah, you can see these are really nice, deep amber. I can't remember exactly where I got these from, but I really like these indicators. They're really quite dark in colour. It's really nice. But yeah, and I also added some trim to the arches, which I forgot to film putting them on. But I used threaded rivets. Very fancy indeed.
So that concludes this video. I don't want to run the engine too much before I do all the pulls, you know, to get the rings bedded in. But the ignition speed, trying to keep it relatively high because I still haven't done like a full 10-15 minutes of running for the camshafts and stuff. So, I mean, who knows what is actually required and stuff, but I'm just, you know, just keeping things in mind, being thoughtful. In the next video, we're going to do everything that is going to make it, yeah, roadworthy, I'm supposing. You know, mirrors, doors, washer fluid, those kind of things. Maybe even a bonnet and a grille. Ooh! And also, most importantly, because we won't get far without it, is modifying it so we can plug in the alternator instead of the dynamo, and it's a lot simpler than you think. So yeah, all of that stuff to look forward to. In fact, by the time this video is out, this thing is going to be on the road, and I mean, I've posted it already, the information and stuff, over on Patreon. So if you want to support this project, help fund it, because it's a bit of a money pit and whatnot, then go and check out over on Patreon. There's a bunch of extra stuff. So yeah, and if not, then just enjoy the rest of the videos. Anyway, I'm Luke, no computer. This is the Big Bogey. Have a lovely time, and remember, don't be scared to try it. Maybe don't try this. It's blooming made.